All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. December 2024 year-end closeout for the pilot chat. We haven't been able to do one in the last couple of months, just given negotiations and everything else that's been going on. So we wanted to get one before the end of the year, just to make sure that you guys are updated on what's going on with the union and the company and any questions or anything heading into the new year. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate you coming out. I always feel like any other company pilot chat, there's usually like some weather report that we start out with, so I won't do one here. So I think they cover it. But we appreciate you joining us nonetheless. Couple things we wanted to cover. 4 out of the 6 of us are here today. We've got Michael and Wayne are gone. Just as a reminder, this is an official union hall business, so if you're not part of the union, please excuse yourself, and this is also being recorded. So you got 4 of us here. Wayne and Michael are gone for the day, but they send their best wishes. I'll start out with a couple of things. We'll get some questions that kind of come in from time to time as far as like an update on any grievances that you might have filed. To start out, I wanted to just a quick reminder for those that aren't aware of the grievance process. Once you think that a violation has happened in the contract, you can certainly reach out to any one of us for a step-by-step process. It's part of the contract that you need to contact a base chief pilot and just let them know what you think happened, and then file a grievance. Once you have filed a grievance on the APA website, either one of us or one of our stewards will take a look at it, see if there's a grievance, if it has merit, and if it does, we'll get it filed with the company. If you're looking for a quick turnaround, it's not a quick process per what happens in the grievance process. What'll happen is that we meet every month with the company for a grievance hearing meeting. We sit down at that point and discuss all the grievances that are open at that time or have come in the past month. So depending on when you have filed that grievance, it might be within like 3 days, it might be 30 days since we just had one a couple of days ago, and now you got to wait until the next hearing. So we'll discuss it at the next hearing, and then we either hopefully get a settlement with the company if there's been a violation, or usually what happens is the company says there's no violation whatsoever, and then it'll go to what we call SBA, or System Board of Adjustment. And that is a 2-person board. Attorneys from both sides show up, company officials show up, union officials show up, and we make our arguments to the 2-system board to see if we can't get a decision there. That happens every 3 to 4 months. So if you file a grievance in January, it could take until June to go through the System Board of Adjustment. If there's no resolution there and the board can't make a decision or it's deadlocked, it'll go to, if we feel like we have a good case and would like to spend the $30,000 in legal fees, we will then take it to arbitration. That takes a while to schedule the arbitrator. That takes a while to make the hearings, the arguments, discovery, just like a normal court case. And then we have to wait for the decision by the arbitrator. So if you file a grievance and the union decides to take it all the way through to arbitration without a settlement or anything, it could take up to 2 years. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. Hopefully the company comes to its senses and makes a settlement offer with the union, and we can get that resolved. But I just want to just a quick update for those that are new, might not have gone through this process before. Again, I was getting some emails, hey, what's up with my grievance? Where is it at in the process? And just thought we'd do a quick reminder. Any questions on that? You can save them for the end if you've got it. Line to line, a couple of us filed, when we file a line, we like to hear some of the stuff that floats out there. Obviously, we hear the rumors, just like you hear the rumors. Your union officials, those that are sitting at this table, the stewards, those that work for the union, just a reminder, we do not get paid for these positions. There's no annual override. There's nothing, we don't get a salary for this. We get flight pay loss. So instead of actually us 4 flying the line today, if we weren't scheduled off, we're getting paid to be here. So it's just in lieu of flying. It's not on top of our flying duties. It's not a salary position. So with that, if you'd like to volunteer, we're always taking applications. But seriously, this is not a paid position. So sometimes you get out there and you're like, oh, you guys aren't paid? No, we're not paid at all. This is a volunteer position. It's completely unlike Alpha, where there's a override, there's a salary for what you do. So Just throwing that out there. Like to clean up stuff that we like to hear out on the line. I'll stop talking for a while. We're going to turn it over to Joel Eisenfeld. He's going to cover a couple of things with hotels and negotiations. So, Joel, take it away.
All right, we'll start with hotels. For those that don't know, we recently switched to API, which is going to be the new vendor for our hotel scheduling, transportation scheduling, and hotel complaints and compliments. So you should all have the API app on your iPad now. That is where you'll go for any hotel complaints. It's extremely easy to use. It's just a fill in the blank when you click on it with the feedback form. Please use it early and often. I'll repeat what I've said the last few times, which is if you're in a given hotel room, wherever it might be, and you find that there are two or three issues with your room or the transportation, I understand that it takes more time, but it is extremely helpful if you fill out one feedback form per issue rather than including all three of the issues in one form. The reason for this is when I approach the company with problems about a hotel, and we all know which hotels are the problem children, they always say, well, we don't see very many reports on this hotel or this particular issue, therefore there's not really a problem and it's fine. So if we can both increase the frequency of reporting, no matter how small the problem, and make a report for each individual problem, it's going to make the numbers look a lot better and give me a lot more ammunition to improve our hotels. With that being said, Doubletree Hotel is a training hotel in Seattle. It is terrible. Everyone knows that it is. I just spent 3 nights there myself. Problems range from mold, hot water not being available, foul smells, the clientele that it attracts. The list goes on and on. So please send in reports, anyone that's staying there. And as we've said before, we are told by Carlos that the standards are what they are. If anyone at any time doesn't feel safe in a hotel, those are the magic words. You call scheduling, you say, I don't feel safe here, and tell them you need a different hotel. I highly encourage you to do that. There's no reason we need to be staying in places like that. If more people refuse these hotels, it's going to start to force the company to look at the situation and accept that something is wrong here. Redmond similarly is one of our real problem hotels. We are currently working on a grievance over the hotel standards not being complied with. Specifically, the blackout curtains in Redmond do not work. They let in a lot of light and wake people up. So if anyone is staying there, and I know we have a lot of overnights in Redmond, please make sure to fill out a report on that and include a picture. It's very seamless with the API app. You can simply allow permission to the camera through the app on your iPad. And you take the picture with your iPad and click submit. It's very, very easy. So if we can flood the company with those, that would be extremely helpful. The same goes for Redmond and all the other hotels that are substandard. Refuse them. There's absolutely nothing keeping you from doing that. You just need to use the words, I don't feel safe here. I think that covers hotels. Negotiations are ongoing. Month of December, we do not meet with the company for negotiations because of the holiday flying. We will resume negotiations next month in January. Progress is being made. For those who saw the email, we don't have a new TA as of our last month of negotiations, but a lot of work got done. What we find is that we get through a section and we get almost all of it done, and there are typically one or two sticking points with that section, be it some sort of language that the company doesn't want to have to do something, or a financial hangup that the company's not willing to discuss or meet where we need them to be financially in that section. And that just puts the section into limbo and it gets parked. So most of the work in these sections that are being parked are done, and we've gained a lot of ground in those sections. They're just not being TA'd because of one or two things that we just can't reach consensus on, and we'll have to come back to them at a later date. As we move forward, we do have more heavy hitting sections, and by that I mean things with a lot more financial impact that are going to be slower and more difficult to negotiate with the company. So I guess be patient. Don't lose sight of the end game. Our motto with the negotiations committee is we're going to do it right or we're not going to do it at all. If we're not getting what we need from the company in these sections, we will park them. We'll mediate down the road. There's a lot of steps we can take. We're simply not willing to agree to things that are substandard. The contracts in the past have done this. The results are not good, and we all suffer from it for years until it can be corrected. So this time we're doing it the right way. I think that's all I have for negotiations, so I'll hand it off to whoever's next.
Can I add to that real quick?
Please.
So Joel said we're getting into sections that's going to be slower. Just as a point of reference, we've been negotiating since February of 2023. So we're coming up on 2 years and we only have 7 sections TA'd right now. So if you're thinking, can it get slower? It's going to get slower, but it's again 7 sections in almost 2 years. But with what Joel said, those are 7 sections that we believe are good. They're good looking. There's a lot of good improvements. And so again, we're only doing it to get it done right, not just obviously because we're efficient or expedient in it. But we'll continue to take the time that we need to take. So thanks, Joel, for that update. Ian, you want to take it?
Sure, yeah. So I'm just going to touch real quick. Recently, really effective this week, we've changed our aeromedical, I guess, advice provider from Dr. Ian Fries, who's the AME that the IBT is contracted with, specifically our pilot group for quite a few years now. He's provided or is available to provide any advice you might need in regards to your medical questions. If you're out on some type of medical leave, need somebody to answer very specific AME and FAA medical certification standards, he's the guy that we typically send you to. Usually it's those questions get funneled to me, and then when they get into the realm of kind of AME world, I send you to Dr. Fries. We've made the decision to switch over to another provider, Dr. Wolbrink, that's effective this week. Some of the big contributing factors was, especially over the last couple of years, Dr. Fries' billing practices have gotten a little expensive, a little out of control. He did just buy a second TBM, not entirely from us, but he's become kind of expensive over the years, and his prices have gone continuously up. That is something that we pay on an hourly basis when one of us needs help. That's not to discourage anybody at all, but that's just kind of how the system works. Every other airline in our local, so 4 others, switched to Dr. Wolbrink over the last 5 or 10 years or so. So we were the only ones still using Dr. Fries. We contacted Dr. Wolbrink and wanted to see if he had room for a 5th. Lucky for us, he did, and that contract is in place as of this week. So anybody who's currently working with Dr. Fries, don't worry, that's not going away. His services will still be provided. It's just that anybody new that needs advice will be sent to Dr. Wolbrink. Another thing of note with that, one big advantage of Dr. Wolbrink is he's not actually a FAA blessed AME. Some may see that as a downside. He is an aeromedical specialist. That's all he does. He deals with this stuff day in and day out, probably even more so sometimes than AMEs do. But the advantage to it is he doesn't have a duty to report. So if you tell him something that you may tell an AME, the AME has a legal duty to report certain things. Dr. Wolbrink doesn't have that. Whereas Dr. Fries, being an AME, would. So I guess the 2 advantages there or no duty to report, so you can speak to him as freely as you'd like about anything that you may have questions on. And the second part being is it comes with some cost savings to us. And Dr. Wolbrink also has office staff as well to help him out. So it's not just a kind of a one-man operation. So we think it's going to be a good move. All the other carriers in our local have been extremely happy with Dr. Wolbrink, both in what it's costing them and the services that he's provided have, from what we've seen, have been much better. So if you have any further questions on that, feel free to reach out to me, or if you've got medical questions, you need a consult with a medical professional, get in contact with me. I will send you the info to Dr. Wolbrink. Yeah, if you're using Dr. Fries, like I said, not to be concerned. He will still continue to help you, but any new issues that come up will be hand it to Dr. Wolfman.
One thing to add on that, for those that are new here, I know we've covered this before. Lyra is a program through the company's healthcare that is a mental health access point. For our pilots, be very careful. Do not use it. I know that sounds strange to say, but what can happen is you can go there with the best of intentions, trying to seek the help that you need, be diagnosed with something that now removes your medical and you can't fly. So if you need help, by all means, get help. I'm not saying don't, but contact the union. Everything is strictly confidential when you talk to us. We have systems in place and resources that can get you all the help that you need at no cost to you without having the risk of losing your medical. So, not to say don't get the help in the right place, which is your union. And that goes with all things. When in doubt, contact the union. There's no harm. Anything we discuss is confidential. And we may, stave off something being said or happening that's going to have an effect on your career. So.
And we might be able to, we don't even need your personal information. If you're just like looking for a therapist, you can reach out to us and we're able to provide resources on that kind of stuff for people who specifically work with pilots outside of the company's mental health. We are programs. Do you want to answer Jason's question?
What do we got? Good question. So Jason's question is, if he's already submitted a report, in this case on the blackout curtains in Redmond, does he need to do one through the Housing Horizon email? No. You're welcome to do both. There's no need. I recommend everyone use the API app. It is easier for you, and it's going to go into the data that I can then use in aggregate. The new provider API is well advanced of where we were with CorpConnex, which was the previous supplier. And I'm able to look at graphs of which markets are the most problems, I guess categories of complaints. So it's very streamlined and all integrated if you just use API. But thank you for asking.
Devin, you want to take it?
Yeah, so just quick stuff on fatigue reports. We've been doing this in CQ for most of the year, talking about the fatigue reports, but in case anyone's missed it or needs kind of a refresher, we've been seeing an uptick in recent months of people not submitting fatigue reports after they call out fatigued. A lot of people just don't think that they're going to be pay guaranteed, so we'll reach out to them and ask them to submit those fatigue reports. And they just say that they didn't think they'd be pay guaranteed, so they didn't submit it. Just a reminder that the fatigue reports are actually required in the FOM to be reported within or submitted within 72 hours of calling out fatigued. The LOA language for pay guarantee is 3 days, but the FOM does require in the fatigue section a report within 72 hours. So keep that in mind if you are calling out fatigue, that report is not optional. It's not only for pay guarantee, it is required per the FOM. We've been getting better reports as of the past couple months, making sure that you're including enough relevant details. And the standard for pay guarantee is it has to be outside of the pilot's control. So keep in mind when you're submitting your report, including relevant details that were outside of your control. That's anything from hotel issues, irregular operations, even just trip pairing arrangements. If things are going as planned and it's just a shitty trip pairing, like you're doing a Minneapolis turn and then sitting for 3 hours before you go to Reno, stuff like that. Everything could be going as planned and it's just a fatiguing pairing. So keep those things in mind. You may not realize, but we may have been talking to the company about like specific hotel issues or something for months. And you may think, well, it's just a one-off and it's not really anybody's fault. But the company's choosing to keep us in hotels specifically is one that comes up a lot that are causing issues with fatigue. Like we talked about the Redmond hotel with the blackout curtains. And Redmond's not the only one that has that issue with the blackout curtains. We have noise issues. We're by busy roads. We have just a ton of different hotel issues. That's one of our most common fatigue reports. Anyways, put as much relevant information that's outside of your control as possible. It'll make it easy for us to help you get the pay guarantee when we're in that meeting talking about it. For the fatigue reports, We meet at the beginning of the month to discuss the fatigue reports from the previous month. If you are gonna be pay guaranteed, you won't hear anything. We get a lot of questions about that. So it should default in Rainmaker to pay guarantee. I say should because we've seen instances where it doesn't get defaulted properly to pay guarantee, so keep an eye on it. But if you are gonna be pay guaranteed, you're not gonna hear anything, so. Also really with that.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
Before we get to questions and wrapping this up, I see John Dodd's on the line, so he's got a couple things to add. You know, you love him. He was there. Where'd he go?
Did you hang up?
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. All right, you just. You're going-
Yeah,
Go ahead,
to echo or add to what Devin was talking about on the FRP, one other thought that I would add that would just be an encouragement to everyone. Not all hotels kind of group pilots and crews together in a given section, but some do. And so just be mindful early morning hours, late evening hours that, there may be other crew members nearby, and keep your be professional and keep your noise down close to other rooms, just to do the best that we can for our peers out there. That's appreciated.
Sorry, one other thing with that I did forget to add. We do have an email set up, fatiguehorizon@apa1224.org. I'm gonna drop it in the chat so you guys can see it. But we will review the fatigue reports for you before you submit them if you'd like. We encourage everybody to send them in. And we can also help you with filling out the form if you have any questions on it.
Yeah, thanks. The application period for interested parties to serve on ASAP has closed. There is still time for those that are interested to be considered for an appointment to serve as gatekeepers on FOQA. That window is still open for a few more days. I think that closes on the 15th. We do have a lot of interest. Of course, any of these positions representing your pilots on these safety programs is very important for our safety culture at this airline, and is greatly appreciated by me, by the union, and by your peers. So encourage all those out there with interest. One other thing that I will add, and this is kind of an illustration of the importance of ongoing data, something that all pilots can hopefully look forward to for operations into San Francisco. San Francisco, year over year, has been one of those locations that has our highest TCAS RA rates, especially for parallel runway operations on runways 28. The fact that we've received a lot of reports, including information on that, especially in ASAP, both our ASAP and other airlines that operate into there, specifically United, and our work with air traffic control through ASAP has allowed work to be undergone on creating a new charted visual that goes into San Francisco. It is supposed to hit our FMSs on the 26th of this month. And what it does is it is designed around the understanding of how a TCAS system operates. And if we start operating on this FMS approach, which actually keeps us further apart on final, kind of an offset final, and then joins the center line much closer in, it should reduce significantly the amount of TCAS RAs that our crews are encountering there. Happy to talk with anybody about more of the technical details on that, but it is a really good safety enhancement and improvement that emanates out of a lot of feedback across the system. So ultimately, though, I would encourage that once it becomes available for us to use, because not all operators can use it or have it within their FMS, air traffic control needs to know that you're requesting it. So when San Francisco is off, announcing that they're operating visual approaches to 2.8s, that would be the time to request that particular approach if you want it. And that's what I've got for today.
All right, thanks, John. I appreciate it. Did you have anything info share that you might want to share? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but anything that you wanted to update the group on?
Well, we had a really good info share in Kansas City just recently with quite a number of members attending, including Ben Johnson and myself presenting in a couple of presentations that went over really well. We continuously, represent your labor and your great work in our safety programs at conferences such as that, and continue to receive a lot of attention for just how well our system is operating, and that's a big shout out to our pilots out there and your engagement with the voluntary safety programs. The two topics that were presented by myself and Ben were generally one on a lot of things that we have learned over all of our time in operating the E-175 on landing the aircraft, running the range from long landings to hard landings to short landings to hot breaks, and that's a wide spectrum of learning about the interesting aspects of the behavior of this aircraft and what it takes for our pilots to do that well. Another one was a focus on a while back. You guys may have seen that FOCA newsletter regarding an event in Yakima where we had discovered out of that there was an interesting cheese hole, if you will, in the interface between EgyptWiz and the oral warning systems on the aircraft, where particular cautions may be not issued to the pilots that would tell you about nearby terrain. So if you haven't read that, you could go back to that. Otherwise, you could certainly reach out to me and I could talk more. But what we used that venue for is highlighting the potential that if it happened in our fleet, it possibly could happen in other fleets out there as well. It's ultimately an illustration of safety equipment on board the airplane may work great and typically does. But as pilots, it's important that we are the ones on the flight deck that actually, make sense of that. And so even in this coming year in CQ, a new focus this next year is on flight path management and rumor versus fact and reasonableness and, trust but verify. Automation is great, but it is not perfect all of the time. And our thanks to you pilots out there for taking care of business when it's not.
All right, thanks, John. I appreciate it. And a big thank you from all the pilots here at Horizon and across the industry that benefit from your expertise and all that you bring to the safety programs. It's always a pleasure to have you not only on the IBT safety teams, but also a pilot here. So we appreciate you. Thanks, John. That's all the updates that we have on the board to update you with. This is the time for you to answer or ask any questions that you want answered. Anything that you've come across the line, anything that you've seen that you might have questions on, this would be the time to do it. You can certainly submit in the meeting chat if you're shy and just want to throw it in the group chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. We got one in the chat already. Hiring sooner than Alaska, has any consideration been given to pulling from Southwest pools for the Hawaiian side? There's always rumors out there. I don't know how to answer this. I will take the opportunity when posed about the Pathways program in general, if that's what you're going for. But there's been nothing that's been discussed at the table with this group here about any one group pulling into another pilot group at all. The Pathways program, for those that don't know, has always been a source of contention, especially with the IBT, in the sense that those goalposts always continually move. And we feel that as a pilot in the air group, that you should have a preference given to you in selection process and when you're brought over to mainline than those that are from a different airline coming into air group. However that looks, we've tried to get, seniority numbers for if they want to hold you here because they need you, staffed here at the airline until you get pulled. But at least hold your place in line over there, not just put your name on a list and we'll call you when we call you. So we've always tried to fight that one, but unless the pilot group as a whole decides not to be in the Pathways program anymore, we're not getting any leverage there. So you all hold the keys to those cards if it came to that. So rumors are rumors. We don't know where people are going. Mainline, Hawaiian, it's all the same at this point, but no worries. We're going to Tokyo though, so it's all good.
And sold.
And sold. Yeah, sorry. Let's see. It takes a second to read these. Have you guys talked to Oscar? Some issue regarding merging. So as far as merging, that's not on the table at the point. I know that's always rumored out there. It's been out there for decades that we're merging with mainline. We're not merging with mainline. Don't have any indicators that we're merging with mainline at all. If you don't understand already, this is a front for where they put the money. So we are more valuable at Horizon, operating as Horizon, because we're a complete tax write-off for Air Group. So there's no indications that we're merging. I will eat a ton of crow if that day ever happens, but we are more profitable for Air Group if we stay exactly what we're doing for Air Group and doing what we need them to do. And how many times has Horizon bailed Air Group out of whatever mess they've gotten themselves into? So if we all became one, then that's out the door as well. As far as any joint merger, as far as any negotiations, that's between the Alpha pilots as far as Hawaiian and Alaska. We're not in the room. We have no part in the room. We are a completely separate airline, even though we wear the same uniforms. But we're completely separate, and we are not in those joint negotiating sessions with them at all. And as far as I know, I don't even think Horizon is in that room as well. We've brought up a few things that we're concerned about and say, hey, one of you might want to get in that room to make sure that your business model is staying what you need it to be. And then they're like, oh, that's probably a good idea. So did you have something to add to that?
No, I think you covered it. I was just concerned the way that the Air Group is talked about. People that are new to Horizon, it could be misconstrued that we are part of Alaska in some way. And Henry covered it. We are not. It is separate operating certificates. So anything that they are doing with the merger of seniority and contracts, as Henry said, has nothing to do with Horizon's contract or seniority list. But I know that the way that they sell this, it can be confusing for people that haven't been around and kind of gotten the sense of how things work. So.
Chris asks, is there a dedicated group for any reserved questions that handle that? If I'm reading that quick enough and understanding it, my reply to that is yes. ExCo Horizon at apa1224.org, any one of our phone numbers or emails, or the stewards Horizon at apa1224.org. Those are your two dedicated groups. You have a question, we all have our phones on us. If we're not flying, they're usually on. And if you have our personal phones, text, email, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, whatever you need, someone, even though, again, we're volunteers, someone's usually by their phone and willing to, get back to you as soon as humanly possible. So if you don't, certainly one of those emails work as well, and we get those just as fast as we do the text or the phone calls. So,
and it's worth mentioning that all those emails are located on the back of the badge backer that we offer. If anyone doesn't have that, email us, ExCo Horizon at apa1224. We will mail it to you, no charge.
And just to add also, the stewards Horizon email goes to the ExCo as well as the storage. So if you're trying to throw a broad net and just reach as many people as possible, that's gonna be your best bet. The ExCo email will get back to you, but that's only gonna go to the ExCo.
And is that
Follow up on
correct?
this seniority.
Oh, wait, I was gonna. So I'm putting those 2 email addresses in the chat at the bottom again, so copy and paste if you need to.
I can answer.
Sorry, what? Oh, did I? Direct message, sorry. I'll redo that in a second. I'm trying to read. Go, Ian.
I saw the follow-up comment on the seniority question. Recently, Jason Berry said there will be no changes in the way non-rev works for us. When I bluntly said to him that doesn't make sense from a numbers standpoint, there will be an additional however many employees in front of us with Alaska non-rev priority codes. He didn't have an answer to it other than saying there will now be additional airplanes, and so there will be no change. And I guess if the question is, are they going to change priority codes or anything like that, the answer is no.
Thanks, Ian. John, if you can read the group text, the chat, there's a question. If you want to address, we've had a number of conversations over the years as far as hard landings, especially when the company decided to put hard landing metrics in our performance-based pay. IBT had major objections with that, but here we are. So I think this question kind of pertains to that. If you want to take it, John.
Sure. Great question, Svein. The specific answers that I would offer is unfortunately based upon what was just mentioned by Henry. What really skewed the attention was when the company chose to pick it as a particular safety metric for bonus. And we have long disagreed with that, not only from a union perspective, but from a folk safety program perspective. Unfortunately, we can't tell them exactly how to do that. We can always provide our feedback, and thankfully they are going to change that for this next year. We will no longer be doing hard landings as part of that bonus metric. That said, the hard landings parameters in this airplane are set by the manufacturer. And so Embraer sets the envelope threshold for those values. And it happens to be when you compare the threshold values for the Embraer against other aircraft within the Alaska Air Group fleets, it is the one that is perhaps the toughest to remain outside of a hard landing. It's got the lowest G value of any other of our aircraft out there. And so it is a little bit easier to inadvertently go over that low threshold of 2 Gs. Unfortunately, part of the problem is that there's no feedback to a pilot, and there's very little sense ability of the pilot to tell whether or not the landing was just a firmer than normal versus a hard one. There are some other complications that how this airplane is built that makes it more of a propensity to have a hard landing, especially when it comes to how the ground spoilers are designed. That gets a bit more technical than I want to have right now. But the fact that we have too many, I would argue we don't have too many. Even of the ones that we have measured over the years, these are happening quite rare. And therefore, any small change in the numbers of hard landings seem to stand out. That's what we've continuously tried to point out to the company. Thankfully, over the last couple of years of hyper focus on hard landings, one of the benefits is we have learned a lot about this airplane and about its its design features, or from a pilot's perspective, design threats. And so we benefited from that, but that hyper focus is, I would agree, has been too much.
Thanks, John. Chris, we'll move down to your question. Any news about buying Raven, Alaska? I have anybody at the table?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
I haven't heard it. If it's a rumor floating out there, that's exactly what it is. More on flying. Did we answer this one?
Yep.
Okay. 2 questions. Is there anyone working on the e-crew issues, and how did the 5-leg days come back? I was waiting for that question. We'll take the e-crew first. Again, if we can remind you that when they launched the new e-crew, they didn't want to have the IBT part of any kind of testing to make sure that those systems were working as they should. And they launched, and we found a bunch of problems, and it's continued to be that way. We continue to bring it up with the company. I will also remind the pilot group that the services that Air Group pays for this, or Horizon, whomever is cutting the check, they take a ticket, much like if you go to a deli and you get one of those now serving tickets. That's what happens with Horizon when they need any services done with eCrew. It's through Greece. That's not a company, that's the country. That's where they have to go to. So it's, time change and everything else. So they have to pull a ticket and wait for a service order to be, taken care of, and they're serviced just like anyone else. So it's a very slow process. When a bunch of issues happened, we were then told it's going to take 4 to 6 months for the system to just settle. And so making sure that all of those major core systems were operating before they would add any kind of, an update, like this code or this code that will, fix this problem or this issue. I will also remind the group that the executive council are all under NDAs, so we're not at liberty to discuss any changes that might be coming with any changes in providers with eCrew.
We can tell you, however, that, to answer your question directly, yes, there is a team working on the issues. The company, as well as the IBT, are well aware that the AIMS eCrew software is outdated, flawed, and a problem. So yes, it is being worked on, and that's about all we can say.
Scott Sylvester, I see you on the call. This might be a good opportunity for you to jump in with the 5-leg. Scott's on the scheduling, IBT scheduling committee. So I know he has some firsthand knowledge on this. I will say this, though, when it comes to 5 legs, there's nothing in the contract that says the company can't build a 5-leg day. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's like 1,200 pairings, and there was like 50 trips or so. I think maybe Scott, if you can hear me, if you want to log on, want to clarify that. So
I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
I'm currently outside in Seattle, so it might be a little loud.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, if you want to take it, Scott, and kind of address this, that'd be awesome.
Okay, for those of you who don't read the Facebook QX pilots, our contract says that we can go up to 8 legs. That's been in there forever, as long as I've been here. Of course, 117 would trump any of that. Additionally, since we don't have mixed pairings with flight attendants, we have to build trips that are in compliance with both the flight attendant and the pilot contract. And in the flight attendant contract, their maximum is 5 working legs or 6 for the deadhead. So when the company builds their baseline, great, make you started. When the company builds their baseline, they have the minimum quality of life. So they have 6 legs, or 5 legs or 6 for the deadhead. And we try to improve that from there. In the past, ever since I've been in the jet, building the jet since 2018, we've been able to get 4 legs most of the time, and then sometimes it'll be 5 legs with a deadhead. Obviously, for the month of January, they focused on something else. I wasn't the one who built it. It was Bill Bowling and the flight attendant and the company pairing builders, and so I don't know what they focused on particularly, but they decided to focus on other things for quality of life improvement. And every quality of life improvement costs money, and we have to be within the threshold. So that's why 5-leg days are back. And all I can say is they will only go away when it affects the bottom line. And keep complaining, and we'll try to change it.
And it's worth noting that we now hold the trump card with these issues. We worked hard to negotiate that fatigue language that pay protects you. There's no reason you need to put up with their nonsense or suffer through those days that are built that way. You hold the trump card. You can at any time say, I am fatigued. It's not safe to continue. I'm out. File your report within 72 hours and get paid.
I will add to that. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you chiming in there. From what I understand too, is that, with what Scott said is that sometimes when you try to change a quality of life issue, it has a domino effect on other things. And so there's been a lot of complaints. I don't like it. I don't think anybody does like it when you have these massive sits somewhere. So now you're sitting somewhere 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 hours somewhere instead of, that's fatiguing in and of itself. So I think what happened is in trying to also fix that, the computer or the software was now able to build another turn instead of having a long sit. So that's not the only reason, but that is possibly one reason of why you've seen some of these trips now have 5 legs on them, is because the software now could build it in there because we didn't want the long sit. So kind of pick your poison. But to Joel's point, at the end of the day, 4 or 5 legs, 8 legs per the contract, whatever. If you're not fit to fly, call out fatigued and file the report and get pay guaranteed for it. That's the bottom line. So if you can do it, great. If you can't, great. But either way, you're going to get paid if you're fatigued for it. If you're not fit to fly, that's the utmost. Safety is the first and foremost thing. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully that answered your question. When it comes to building trips, why do we have 2.5, 3+ hour sits? Well, Chris, that answers the question. So if you reverse engineer that, and again, Scott, if you want to chime in, but if you reverse engineer that, as soon as you turn things off in the software and you don't want 5 legs, then things like 2 and 3 hour sits now appear. All right. So again, pick your poison. I hope I'm explaining that. I hope you guys are getting that. And again, if Scott wants to jump in, but
And I guess to take that back to negotiations, the people sitting at the table on your behalf for negotiations live through those pairings just like you do. And we are going to work to get things put in the contract that dissuade the company from using those inefficiencies, like soft time of 3, 4 hour sits during the day, long multi-leg days, all those things. If they want to use those tools, that's fine, but it shouldn't come for free. So that's something that we are going to approach with renegotiating this contract.
yeah. Anything else, folks?
Hey, it's Scott Sylvester again.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, separate issue. I was in a hotel last week that did not have the chain or bar that prevents anybody from the outside, including employees, from getting into the room. Is that in violation of the hotel standards? I read them, but it doesn't say specifically that that bar or chain is required. It just
Yeah,
says deadbolts.
yeah, I believe there's an or in there. Don't quote me, but I believe we just had a grievance come through on this
Yeah, it is an
too
or.
long ago. I believe the language is an or, and the way that it is reading tells me that it can be a deadbolt and or. So meaning it wouldn't have to have both, unfortunately. This sad excuse for hotel standards came from an arbitration. We attempted to reach an agreement with the company on minimum hotel standards now half a decade or more ago. This is a long time back. We were unable to, it therefore went to arbitration, and the arbitrator basically split the baby and came up with his own list of minimum standards. And a lot of what he wrote there is confusing, gray, unclear. It's not good. And we are now living with the consequences of that arbitration. And it's again something we're going to fix in negotiations. But I believe there is no grievance there so long as the door has a deadbolt, to answer your question.
I will add this though. After that grievance came through, there's people at this table that went to a hotel and tested to see if if there's a deadlock that's attached to one of those electronic, a key card type thing, and you scan the card, does the deadbolt work independently of the key itself? And what we determined is it does. So therefore, it's providing 2 ways of locking the door. So again, to Joel's point, it's an or.
Yes.
So as long as there's 2 ways to secure that door, the deadbolt working independently of the key card is the second way of securing the door.
Yeah, not ideal. Most hotels have both as a, a redundancy feature. But make sure that you do use the deadbolt. Don't just let the door lock with the card when it clicks closed. Actually twist that lock, and that will disable the card reader function. So housekeeping or whoever cannot get in your room. And I'll repeat it again. If at any time you don't feel safe at any overnight, those are the magic words. Call scheduling, tell them I don't feel safe. I need a different hotel.
Anyone else?
Lastly, please wear union lanyards. I see a lot of people out on the line wearing all kinds of lanyards, the most offensive of which are Alaska lanyards that are issued to new hires. We don't work for Alaska Airlines, as is evidenced by the fact that we are not merging our seniority. So please wear a union lanyard, show support. We are in negotiations, particularly. It sends a strong message. And if you are not in possession of a lanyard, badge backer, or any of the other things that we offer, a bag tag, let us know. Email ExCo Horizon. We will mail them to you free of charge. And if you are not receiving union communication for some reason, let us know so we can get into the system and make sure your email address, personal address are all up to date so you are getting this, because things like voting are going to happen and you do not want to miss out on that.
Go ahead.
I just have one thing to add from a training committee side. The 2025 CQB flashcards are done. They're up, they're ready to go. So if you've got CQ coming up, please take a look at those. If you need instructions on how to get into them, if you have not done so already, feel free to reach out to Training Horizon or ExCo or Stewards or me. Or Lisa, Derek, or anyone involved with training would be happy to get that info to you.
I was kind of surprised we hadn't gotten this, but thanks for asking this. So as far as the new lanyards, appreciate those that took the survey. We're weighing where we're at in the contract negotiations now versus the cost of how much it's going to cost to produce those lanyards. There will be a time where we get new lanyards, and there'll be a time where we get contract now because we're tired of dealing with this crap. And while I think we all hit that 2 years ago, we're still at the table. Yeah, or 8 years ago. We're still at the table. There was a winning color. We're not going to announce it here. But there will be a time where you get a brand new lanyard with contract information in the mail directly to your home address that you have in the site. So we haven't hit that. We discussed January 1, right? Because our contract becomes amenable December 31st, which is in just a couple of weeks from now. So there's no more, percent increases year after year other than your longevity increase. So it ends after December 31st. So the contract doesn't expire. It's amenable, and it keeps going until we get a new contract. So the goal or the conversation at the table was maybe January 1, we roll these out. But we still have a long haul in front of us. The company is very slow moving, and we are slow moving ourselves because we do want to get it right. So we will pull that lever when we need to pull that lever, but it's the executive council's decision at this point not to pull the lever at this given moment. But when we do, you're going to get a brand new colorful lanyard, and we hope the entire pilot group does wear that in support of the contract negotiations.
Just one more piece to add on the flashcards. I was reminded of to make sure that you're viewing the latest flashcards, make sure you refresh the app. So reload everything in there just to make sure you're looking at the correct question bank. Any questions, feel free to send them our way.
Hey guys, I got one more question, a little bit of a broader sense on just amount of flying that actually leaves Washington and Oregon. Since the queue went away, we've picked up a lot of those traditional queue routes, and I know that Joe Sprague was a little bit apprehensive about having our airplanes too far away from home bases, but it really seems like the amount of flying that's something other than Portland shuttles, Yakima shuttles, Walla Walla has really dwindled, and I'm curious if we have any say in that from a union perspective, or is that just something the company's going to decide on the flying side that, one day it's okay for us to start doing California flying again?
I can kind of speak to that. The company decides, obviously, where we fly, when we fly, how we fly. So we do not get to dictate any of that to the company. We do and did yesterday when we met with the company, made very clear that we want to see longer, thinner routes that are more efficient, better for our days off, better for pay. We want to see less inefficient short flying that you've noted as becoming frequent. The End of the day, the marketing team, has what they have in a pool of flying, and it's divvied up to either SkyWest or us on the CPA carrier side. And you're correct. Joe Sprague had an opportunity to bring that, say, Mexico flying to us. He specifically opted not to because we don't have maintenance bases in Las Vegas, California area, and SkyWest does. We've made it very clear to the company that the only way to grow the airline is to grow the airline. And I know that comes as a shock, but that's actually how it's done. You have to take some amount of risk and invest some amount of money to open new bases, open new maintenance bases, and expand. Just saying we're going to grow, which is what the company's been doing, and not doing anything is not growth. For those that don't know, there was a time where this company was 1,000+ pilots on the seniority list. We're now 650, give or take. And we were 61-ish airplanes, and we're now going to be back to 50 at the end of 2025, if I'm not wrong. So 10 short of where we once were. This was all discussed yesterday. I highly encourage all of you, if you do join the pilot chat, growth is going to be mentioned. It's their favorite word. And I encourage everyone to ask, what does that actually mean? Because to my knowledge, no growth per se actually happening. We're not even replacing the airplanes that we got rid of. So I guess to answer your question, no, we don't control it. We do push hard to get the good flying. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't, but it's at the company's discretion.
If you don't, it's always a good idea, but we do here at the table, we follow the investor days, we follow all of those announcements that come through by not only this airline, but other airlines as well. We get told very often that if we change something, if we get something better than the sleep in Redmond, will cease to exist as an airline because that'll just break the bank. By their own admission, Air Group announced with all of the different things that are coming with the Hawaiian merger that the company will see $1 billion with a B in profit and how they restructure the financing of their credit card system. So just in the credit card industry alone that we offer, there's going to be a $1 billion increase in profits to the bottom line. So if this group at this table ever seems frustrated or upset on behalf of the pilot group, that's why, is because we get told all the time that the small incremental changes that might be major quality of life increases and changes and benefits to you as a pilot on this line and all of us sitting at this table will come at an operational cost that we will cease to exist when the company is raking hand over fist just oodles of money that it's hard to fathom how much that's actually out there. So go ahead, Joel.
Well, for perspective, the purchase of a Hawaiian $1.9 billion. So as Henry said, the profit from this credit card situation is more than half the purchase price of the entire Hawaiian Airlines merger. And that's just the credit card. That's save not all the other income that Air Group has going on, us included. For perspective with our hotels, if you at street pricing, which to be clear, we don't pay street pricing, we contract at much lower rates than what you would find online as a consumer. To fix Boise or to fix Redmond, you'd be looking at between a $15 and a $35 a night per person increase at street pricing. And this is so minuscule in the realm of Air Group finance that it's laughable. But this is what they're bickering over.
Yeah. But with that said, we'll continue to fight the good fight. If there's no other questions, I do want to close out saying this, is that it's been an honor to fight for you in 2024 and for the years that we've been doing it. pride swallowing at times, but we continue to fight and we'll continue to fight because we see the hypocrisy that's out there and we'll continue to fight against that. So we want to close out 2024 by saying thank you to our membership. Thank you to all those that continue to support the IBT and our efforts to make a better quality of life for you here at Horizon for as long as you choose to stay here. And we'll continue to work for that until someone decides not to have us here anymore. But we appreciate the time. We appreciate you being here. And if you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out. That's what we do. We're kind of used to it on a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week basis at this point. So anyway, thank you very much for you guys. If you have anything, follow up. Again, don't hesitate to contact us. But you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Take some time for yourself and for your family, and we'll see you in 2025. Have a good night.